Today we have another haunted doll to talk about that goes by the name Letter. So welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you've been here before. We're Horror O'Clock, we go over all things spooky, we have loads of playlists on the channel, and I'm really excited to talk about Letter the doll. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so Letter has two names. Letter or letter me out. There is a pun with it, and we're going to get into the history of why that name came to surface, why that pun came, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. Letter is also described as the doll from hell. So let's first begin with the origins. So Letter was discovered in Australia, South Wales, in a rural town area called Wagga Wagga. Now he was found by a man called Kerry Walton underneath a house, specifically under the floor of the porch in the abandoned house. Now some people say Letter was found in the basement, and some people say that he was actually found underneath the porch. Now Kerry has done interviews, but I've not been able to hear him actually specifically say where he found Letter, but it was at an abandoned house. Now why was Kerry at this abandoned house? Well, he was actually in the area for his grandmother's funeral when he decided to go exploring. Now, this area actually used to be where he used to live in his childhood, and all of the children in that neighborhood had kind of looked at this abandoned house and thought, wow, that house is creepy. So they were always drawn to it as children, and Kerry just remembered about it while being in the area and decided to go back again. And through my research, I just thought of all the times you'd go back to your childhood kind of town, it's while you're having a funeral on the same day. So a bit of an eerie backstory behind how this all started. But there was a folklore legend around the time of their childhood that was very intriguing. A man used to lurk around the abandoned house carrying a sack of human heads, and that the house was supposed to be very haunted, and many were too fearful to walk past the house and would avoid it completely, even going as far as crossing to the other side of the street so that they didn't have to walk directly past it. So when Kerry went to revisit this haunted abandoned house, he'd said physically in an interview in 1981 he was in the area with his brother and they'd been exploring together, so he didn't go alone. So during their exploration, they'd used a flashlight and they actually saw something underneath the floorboards. Kerry was terrified at first, as he thought it was the remains of a child, until inspecting that it was actually a wooden doll hidden underneath the house. He was still terrified at this point, and it was actually after dark when Kerry and his brother got into their car and took the doll back with them. So this is also at a nighttime setting. Like, imagine how freaky that would be. I'm gonna put a picture up of the doll as well, so just look at Letter and picture yourself finding this doll with a flashlight at night. Now here's a description of Letter. So Letter the doll has a European gypsy heritage. Letter has nails at the bottom of his shoes that are actually keeping them on his feet. And these nails in the shoes signal that the doll is at least anywhere from 170 to 200 years old. Letter has real human hair and was believed to have been crafted in Romania. And Romanian gypsies say it's possible for a spirit to possess a doll that resembles the person that died. That has been a very common theme in our previous research, even with the Annabelle doll. You can watch that video, it's on our channel, and you'll understand what I mean by that. But even this doll, it has its own Facebook page and Instagram account where it talks in first person. Pretty sure Robert the doll has that as well. Again, we have researched Robert the doll, so there are always going to be trends with these haunted dolls. They're very famous. So Walton discovered Letter in 1972 with his brother, so that is when it happened in the 70s. Again, there's just so many correlations with the last few bits of research I've done. Like, A lot of spooky stuff happened in the 70s. I just want to point that out. Like, the 70s seemed to be a pretty weird period of time. But anyway, Letta is made of wood, is child size, and has glass eyes. Letta also has a peculiar face shape and is dressed in green and has long braided hair. So like we mentioned, when Walton first discovered Letta, he was understandably terrified. Despite this, Walton brought the doll back to him with his family in Brisbane. Now again, we're not quite sure where Carrie placed the doll on the journey back. Some believe it was in the boot or the trunk of his car. Some even believe that he was just strapped into one of the back seats. I couldn't get a clarification on that, but either way, he came back with them in the car. But during the journey back, this is when something absolutely horrifying starts. Movement was heard on the drive back, as well as a scream, "No thank you." Him and his brother had heard and witnessed this together. Now reportedly, the doll had said, "Let me out," and kind of screamed it in like how a human would when they've been locked somewhere, except it was like, "Let me out, let me out." I'm so sorry for the voice, that's just how I imagine it would have sounded, but something along those lines. That is what Kerry also kind of explained in an interview as well. Now, at a later point in life, not too long after bringing the doll back home from his abandoned childhood kind of rural town, they actually moved away from Brisbane, and they brought the doll with them when they moved. So the family had moved up to Warwick, Queensland, Australia, and the doll was still the face of strange happenings. So let's have a look at some paranormal sightings that have come from the doll. Firstly, let's note, Letta has been on multiple TV shows where his owner has explained some of the paranormal sightings of the doll. So we're going to list some of those now. And after the script writing, I'm going to look for some clips for Letta on TV shows, and I'll share anything that I find interesting. That will be in a little later portion of this video. So the owner claims that more than one person has seen the doll move right in front of them, from its legs moving, from being sat on people's laps, from its head turning when there's conversations going on in the room. There's also been sights of the doll moving on its own, as it's left visible marks around the house, as well as the same physical marks being on the doll's shoes. Now, Walton's children that lived with the doll said they could hear the doll moving around, and understandably were terrified of the doll being a strange new addition to the family when their father had brought him home shortly after being at the abandoned house. So this would be a very, very interesting shock for the family. You know, the children would know that the dad was out at a funeral and comes back with a creepy looking doll. The doll also reportedly even made voices and noises like it spoke. Now these were commotions that would wake up his children to the point of where they would scream in horror. Even Walton's dogs would bark and jump up at Letta like an intruder of some sort, a negative energy that the dogs could sense. You can even meet Letta the doll, however there are reports of nightmares as well as feeling nauseous when you have an encounter with the doll. The owner even charges you to have a picture with Letta, talk about securing the bag. I respect it. But other people also just say Letta seems to be like a good luck charm to be around and that he would do good things for you. Not everybody thinks this doll is inherently evil, not even the owner. Again, we'll get more into that soon. So, Letta travels around the world when Walton is not at their home in Warwick. Walton also vows to never sell Letta, although he has tried once in the past and couldn't seem to come to terms with it, almost like there was a force stopping him. So he was supposed to have been sold to a woman for $400. His family were desperate for money at the time as they were moving house, so that was from Brisbane to Warwick. They needed some little extra money at the time. Walton had actually driven all the way to the location, and that's when he physically couldn't take him out of the car. So there's kind of two ways this is explained. It's either there was a force upon him to where he just didn't want to sell the doll, he didn't want to take it out the car, but another one, it says that he physically could not lift the doll out, like it was glued to the car or something. Again, I'm not quite sure which way the story is. A lot of things weren't really answered in the interviews, but either way, there was something stopping him from handing the doll over and taking the cash, even though he drove all the way there and needed the money. So in recent day, Walton now believes that Letta could be sold for much more money nowadays. However, he doesn't believe he is physically capable to actually do that. He also sees Letta as a part of the family now. So why is Letta haunted? What about this doll could possibly explain the weird occurrences? Well, many psychics have studied the doll both on live TV and off. Some mediums don't sense a negative energy, but more of a tragic energy resulting in a child where they had taken the doll as their vessel. And some mediums even warned Walton that he would never be able to get rid of Letta. Even a Brisbane psychic, Keisha, said that the doll was not evil but rather a sad doll and was made after the death of somebody. Now this person that died was persecuted and the death broke the heart of another, so there was a lot of anger and pain in the making of Letta. So somebody that really loved this person that died was so sad that they made a doll for him, and he was just ridiculed, called loads of names in his lifetime. So let's actually take a look at this clip of the psychic now, holding Letta and getting a reading from him.
It's very sad. It really is. It's not really a bad doll. It's a sad one. Because everybody hates it so much.
Although Brisbane psychic Keisha believes she can explain the story of the gypsy doll.
I get a place very barren. Somebody's sitting there very quietly. Someone's died. Making this because somebody's died. A lot of tears have gone into this, but a lot of anger, persecution. Someone has persecuted this person who did this doll. Hence, somebody's persecuted the person who made this doll. People are screaming, people are shouting at him, calling him names, calling him witch. And because of that, the person he loved died in an accident or something, and he's made this. So there's a lot of hate in it, the hate against the people who killed his person he loved.
Is that hate carried in this doll?
Absolutely. The hate, the sorrow, the anguish, pity, the murderous feelings, yes, carried in this doll.
So after watching that, we can really see that the medium psychic picked up on the emotions of the doll, like she was literally crying on the camera. Didn't seem staged or acted to me. It seemed like quite a genuine response, and it was quite sad to watch. So more about this spirit that died, that claims the vessel of Letta. Many believe that it was a young boy that had drowned in water. So the doll is supposedly possessed with the spirit of this boy, and in some other variations of the origins behind the doll, it was the gypsies that placed the soul of the boy inside the doll, and according to Walton, he thinks that the drowning is the reason why it always rains when they go traveling with Letta. So that is just a really interesting story, and rather interesting as it seems as though Carrie was always connected to the abandoned house since he was a child, almost like Letta was a force so strong all of the neighborhood children can sense him behind the walls of the empty house, until eventually that force was strong enough to bring Carrie back to retrieve him. Perhaps the doll had found the most interesting Carrie, as many people believe that if you find yourself thinking about a haunted location or a haunted item too much, it's a sign that there is something for you. And Carrie going back to that house found Letta, so it seems as though it pulled him there. So yeah, I hope you guys found that interesting. I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next spooky video. We have so many playlists on Horror O'Clock, so if you're interested in binge watching any of our videos, have a look through those playlists. We have so much great content on this channel, and we know you'll love them, especially if you made it all the way through to the end of this video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay spooky.